when I was younger and earlier on, I was like, oh man, these guys that are like, like making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, right? And if all of a sudden you're asking me to put up 5 grand because you're 10K back in taxes and I only have a 7K fee attached to it, the risk reward there is not worth it. So do I want to say we're going to have a crash?
So take me back to the start of your journey in real estate.
All right. So I guess I started probably 11 years ago.
Okay.
Something like that. I started with a company. That company has the initials of NW.
Very well-known company.
Very well-known for, and that's another story as well.
For sure. Big company.
Very big company. I don't necessarily like everything that they do on an individual brokerage level. However, I can't negate or look past the fact that like when you got 40 plus locations, you're not doing it all wrong.
The biggest in the country,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's not an understatement. It's biggest in the country.
Correct. Okay. So, so from that perspective, from a business perspective, I you don't have to like someone to respect someone.
For sure.
And, but I started off there. I was started off in sales. I was over there maybe for like 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that. Started off in sales. Then I was in acquisitions.
Before that, had you had any experience in sales or real estate?
You want to go back before that? We can go. we can go back,
relevant.
baby.
It's relevant.
We can go back, baby. So as you know, with what a lot of what I do for my business is a lot of like advertising related, right? Yep. So I actually came from the advertising industry.
Got it.
So I was working for a company called Super Media at the time. They were publishers of like the Yellow Pages and stuff like that, but they also had a lot of online products. So I was heavy on pushing that. And so I came from that industry. I was working out Chadsford, and I showed up one day and they shut their doors because obviously the Yellow Pages, Yellow Book is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they shut their doors, shut down our branch, and then I went into medical magazine advertising.
Okay.
Did that for a brief little stint. And then they shut their doors.
Brutal.
Yeah. And it was at that time, I'm like, you know what? I am not going to work for another company ever again. I will not do it. Like for my life and income to be dictated by them to be like, oh yeah, we're going to pull the plug on this branch.
Yeah, man.
Why would I do that? So, started to look at other avenues. And then that's when NW just randomly reached out to me for recruiting. I think at the time, just to like pay the bills, I was probably doing like Verizon door to door, or something like that. And then, in addition to, so then when I started working for NW, obviously there's a gap between the time you get paid because it's commission only.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't have any money, dude. I had nothing. Right? I was married. I think we were living in I think it's called Riddle Glen Condominium over in like Media.
Okay.
It's like across from like the Granite Run Mall.
Yep.
Like we had no money, no anything. And like I would do real estate all day, and then all night I would deliver Chinese food.
Okay.
And that's how I paid the bill until I started to get a little bit of traction with real estate. And then was with them for, like I said, 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and became really close with one of my clients. Client was a builder. And then he offered me a partnership position.
Okay.
Worked in with him for 2 years, grew that company by 750% in those 2 years. To the point where we just had too much going on. And then we're just like, all right, cool. I'm going to do my own thing now.
Got it.
And that's when the whole me wholesaling, building a team, doing all that stuff kind of came to fruition.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's go back to when you were first being trained by the company.
Yes.
What was that like training process like? I have to imagine that being one of the biggest companies in the wholesale industry, they probably have pretty damn good training, right?
Actually, surprisingly not.
No? Okay.
Not surprisingly. Well, okay. I don't want to say not. It was a lot of hands-on.
Okay.
It was a lot of running around, sales agents running around like with the AAs. It was a lot of, behind the computer, hammering, doing ads, stuff like that to try to build a buyer's list,
Got you.
right? And then you're building a buyer's list, and at that point you're, you know, it becomes a rat race in a
Fair.
sense,
Yeah. Fair.
where you have your entire sales team, right? And then like once an acquisitions agent gets and that's actually how I met you. I was
Yeah.
there. I sent out a deal.
Yeah.
I forget where it was, but you and your pops came.
Did we?
Yeah. That's that.
Oh,
I want to
man,
say it
taking
was
me
like
back now. Yeah.
I want to say it was in like Wyncote or something like that. It was Philly, but it was like a good section of Philly.
Interesting. I didn't even remember that. Like, if you had asked me before you said that, where did we actually meet? I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is like initially, like after I bounced from that entity, right? I was feeling, I don't know, some type of way, some type of salty or like that. But now as time progressed, I look at like how many of my circle of like influence came from that. And now all of a sudden I'm grateful.
Yeah.
But at the time I was being young and you know, and
well, anything is hard to be grateful and appreciative for when you're in the thick of frustration or whatever the hell it is you're dealing with at that time.
Yeah. So going back to what that process was like, it would be like, you know, an AA would get a deal under contract. They'd put together a PDF like low key, and then they would drop it to the sales team. And then it was first one to get a signed contract, first one EMD in.
Okay.
So you imagine it became a rat race.
Yeah.
Literally, like they turned it into like a Wolf of Wall Street thing.
Yeah.
Again, that's fine. Not how I do business.
Right. Right.
Because I like to build everything based on relationships. But I did good there. I did fine there. But then I look at the people that I, you know, that I surround myself with, and a nice chunk of them came from that. Like one of my best mentors in the business came from that, where like I, you know, forcefully sold him a property, right? Forcefully sold him a property. And then he walked the property later and he was like, this is not what I was expecting. I'm like, this is what I was told. Right. And
so he hadn't walked it before putting in his EMD and everything.
Right. And he had 10K hard.
Yep.
And then, you know, I go there and I'm like, yeah, my buyer wants out because it's not representative of like what we were promoting.
Yeah.
Right. And it was, no, you can't do that. And then I sat there literally for like, I don't even know, probably like 2 or 3 days straight, just literally physically calling every single buyer. And then I placed someone else who was willing to take it to get my guy's EMD back.
Okay.
And then before you know it, because I did that, I've sold him, I don't know, 8 properties now. I go to his cabin house, you know, like.
That's huge, man. So you were able to get the company to agree to give him his money back because you replaced him with a new buyer. Okay.
Yes.
Problem solving. I love that.
Yes, problem solved, but I didn't sleep for like 3 days.
I
but that's okay.
Understand.
I saved my client.
Yeah, man.
I saved my client.
That's massive. And dude, if that doesn't speak to your character, like I don't know what does, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then when I teamed up with what else do you want to know about, I guess, that?
No, man, that's good. That's helpful. I mean, it's always interesting. I like to hear about sales training processes and all that type of stuff and everything. Because, you know, obviously I have trained sales teams for many years. Yeah. And one of the things that I've picked up on from most bigger sales organizations is they usually have a really freaking structured approach to their training. Like you talk to a lot of guys, for whatever reason, in the wholesale industry, so many guys started doing sales through like a window and roofing company, and they always have really amazing training programs and everything. And of course they have high turnover, so that kind of reinforces the necessity to have a really good streamlined training approach for your sales team. So super interested in it.
It wasn't a bad approach, but I would say a lot of it was more sink or swim.
Interesting.
It was
that makes sense.
It was like
that makes sense.
They drop on you the basics.
Yep.
And then it's you need to get licensed within 3 months and you need to have your first sale within 3 months.
Okay.
If you don't do that, company lets you go, which I understand now looking back, because like if someone doesn't have any income for 3 months, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, right. You're doing them a disservice by trying to drag them along anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of the training was more based on running around town with the acquisitions agents to be able to do stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Or, I think maybe like once or twice a week, we would have like 1 or 2 hours of training. That's it.
Okay.
It's not like it was this massive, massive thing. It was just like Wolf of Wall Street, throw them in the pit, sink or swim. I hope you get a sale. This is what you do to get buyers.
Real estate pros. If you are a licensed agent or you're thinking about getting your license to become a real estate agent, listen up because this is for you. Imagine being a part of a brokerage that focuses and specializes on investment real estate. Most brokerages out there focus heavily on the retail residential side of real estate, but we just launched a partnership with an investor-focused real estate brokerage that is going to help you take your personal real estate investing or your clients' real estate investing careers to the next level. To find out more and see if this is the right fit for you, head over to revamp365.ai/brokerage. Don't settle for just any brokerage. Go with one that is designed with you and your investing goals in mind. Head on over to revamp365.ai/brokerage.
And who knows? Maybe the company completely changed that.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they completely reformed that because that was a while ago.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's funny because like then when I started, doing my wholesale business, I actually took that and flipped it.
Right.
To the complete opposite.
That makes sense. Yep.
Where what they were doing was heavy on, they wanted to have 1 million guys in the sales pit. I wanted to have multiple guys in the acquisitions pit only. And then I was handling all dispo.
Got it.
And I found that to be super lucrative.
So I'm sure that there's a whole lot that goes into that, but a lot of it was just your dislike of the way that some of the things were run in the company. But I mean, it also makes sense, I guess, putting yourself in the dispo role because you already had some relationships and everything. You had a track record, you had success. And in the dispo role, it's like you're kind of overseeing everything that's happened. You're underwriting deals for acquisitions anyway, right? Okay.
Yes. Not actually, sort of. I would teach the acquisitions agents where we need it. I would be looking at it, via like pictures and stuff like that to make sure that I think that they're spot on with Reno and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But they knew the formula that we needed it at the time.
Okay.
It was nothing crazy. And, when the market's decent, it's like, good neighborhood, ARV times 0.72, 0.73, subtract out construction. That's your sales number.
Yep.
Not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, man. It's so funny, like training a lot of different salespeople over the years and everything. It's like my sales process 5 years ago was so much more complicated. Complicated is probably not the right word. Complex than it is today.
Yeah.
And at the time I thought it was the greatest, but it was more in depth than it needed to be.
Absolutely.
It's like now on the other end of the spectrum, it's like I focus so much more on training somebody on the fundamentals. Like I like to literally dumb it down to the point where it's like, I don't really even train about construction or repairs. I don't train about the real estate aspect, even comping. Like I don't really care about that too much. I simplify it down to, hey, you're a person. Can you have a conversation with a person and make them like you and trust you and not lie to them? You're going to do just fine, kid.
Correct.
It's like, that's really it. When you boil it all down, it's like, be likable, know what you're talking about and everything, but build a relationship and you'll be able to do just fine.
Well, I would teach that to my acquisitions guys as well. I mean, yours is more from you're teaching that to your sales guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I would teach something similar to my acquisitions agents where I was just trying to teach them to be able to identify types of sellers.
Sure.
Right. And in my opinion, there's only really like 3 types of sellers. And then out of those 3 types of sellers, I was telling them only focus on trust because the other ones are not going to make you a lot of money. Because you got 3 types of sellers. Seller that does business with people he trusts, right? Then you got the seller who says they're a seller, but they're just trying to get really an appraisal.
Yep.
And then you have the seller that's only going to go with the highest offer.
Yep.
If they're only going to go with the highest offer.
2 of them aren't our guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So only focus with trust. And if you can't build trust, that's fine. On to the next.
That's right.
I believe firmly that anyone can be an acquisitions or sales agent. Some will do better than others.
Agreed.
But the reasoning is because like people have different personalities, right? My personality might not connect with someone that your personality will.
Yep.
And vice versa. So, even if you have someone who's like super rough around the edges or something like that, or completely like just like, or maybe they just seem like they're like in left field, right? When the game's going on, nothing's happening over there, right? That person will still randomly connect with someone who brings in like a 40K, 50K fee.
Absolutely, man. Yep.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's also interesting to see when you're in the business and you start going through turnover of employees. It's like everyone who talks a big game, no one does anything.
Yeah. That's a super interesting insight, no right? Anything. Yeah, I don't know what that is, man, but I think that's true probably not just in sales roles. I was just talking to a buddy of mine that was talking about bringing in like a COO type of person for his company, not even in the real estate industry. He was saying the same thing. It's like everybody that I've ever interviewed for a role like this, it's like, I guess that's just psychology at its core. It's like, well, I'm interviewing with you. Of course, I want to tell you that I'm the shit,
Yeah.
To me, it's like, I don't know, with my experience, I'd rather underperform and over deliver on anything that I do, but that's not the most
not what everyone
common.
Does. Yeah, that's not the most common. You're very unique in that sense, right?
Yeah.
I also find that, a lot of people, they do puff their chest, but they puff their chest out of a lack of confidence rather than the opposite. Like, the people that, I'm doing 8 million deals. You're not.
Yep.
Like you're not. You're probably, missing mortgage payments on multiple properties that you state you own.
Right. Yeah. Super interesting, man.
Yeah. And that's fine. People go through that too. You know what I mean? Like it's
100%, man. It's like, I don't know. At this point, it's like, I feel like I haven't been in this industry forever. Like I've been like 9 years now that I've been doing real estate in some capacity.
Yeah.
But I've done enough and experienced enough and met enough people that are badass motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people that I've met that I thought were badass motherfuckers that were not. They were exactly what you just described. It's like they're claiming their shit doesn't stink and they're doing, $10 million a year and,
So correct me if I'm wrong, but in your experience, have you noticed that tends to be the most humble people? The ones that aren't really putting themselves out there like, whoa.
Yeah.
They tend to be the kind of the whales, the real whales.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Every singular time.
Yep.
I mean, people that you and I mutually know, you would never, 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 never think in a million years that they own like 300, 400 houses.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're not,
something to be said about that.
One of the most wealthy buyers that I ever met. She was this like old Jewish lady, right? Like a really old Jewish lady from New York. She would pull up to the houses in like a busted ass Nissan Versa. And like wear like raggedy looking clothes. And like I sold her like, I don't know, like 10 houses.
Buying straight cash,
Just,
right?
Yep. Proof of funds. I don't have that, but you can look at my bank statement.
Yep.
Okay.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
It's absolutely insane. It's cool to see that like we both experienced the exact same thing.
I think, especially with where we're at right now economically and everything, like I've also seen a lot of people in the last year or so kind of shitting on people and being like, oh yeah, all the people that are going to get burned now because they're over leveraged and over this and over that. It's like, dude, you're full of, like, everybody is going to feel economically what is happening today. I don't care who you are. Even if you're in all cash, you have no leverage, no debt, you're still going to feel the impact of the inflation that we've experienced, of the housing market doing what it's doing, whatever that means for you. But it's like, don't be an arrogant asshole,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I will be the first to say like the whole COVID thing, like that humbled me up.
Dude.
That humbled me up big time. Luckily, like the rental properties and stuff, like the majority of the rental properties that I owned, I had significant equity in, or like I owned cash, because that's really kind of what floated me during that period, because like, so a lot of people don't know this, but you know this because you're also in wholesaling, right? So people along, all the news stations, oh, house values are bazillion dollars and this and that. People don't realize that like we've been in a recession for like 4 years now.
Yeah.
As wholesalers.
Yeah.
And our buyers are like, oh, where are the deals at? Well, it's not as easy. Now you're spending twice the amount of money in marketing to get the same fee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that was an eye-opening experience. And because people don't realize, like, as a wholesaler, we're specializing in off-market distressed inventory usually.
Yep.
Right? Now all of a sudden it's all over the news stations. You're getting $1 bazillion for your houses. What are they doing? They're reaching out to their agent.
Yep.
Or we're not the highest offer.
Yep.
Yeah. That was the super humbling experience for me, because I was like, when COVID happened initially,
so
I was like,
deal flow.
Yeah, deal flow.
Yeah.
Deal flow. When COVID initially happened, I was like, all right, cool. I could see how this might benefit me if the housing market starts to tank, because that's really where we make our money, is when the housing market tanks.
Yeah. 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 No, it makes sense. It's like, I was preaching to my sales team, like even at the beginning of COVID, like I don't care too much what the market does. It doesn't matter if values are up, values are down, rates are up, rates are down. There's always going to be distressed sellers that their best solution is not going with a retail agent and trying to go that route and that path, because there's a lot of uncertainty with that, right? So there's always going to be distressed sellers, and there's always going to be, on the other end, there's always going to be buyers and investors that want to park money in real estate, want to grow wealth through real estate, want to flip real estate, whatever. The dynamic of that seller profile or that buyer profile might change a lot based on the economic conditions that are currently existing. You're right. And it did. It changed a lot, you know?
And I think that was the biggest thing to identify, is that profile will change. But like in my head, I was just like, if I just keep on keeping on, I'm gonna be good.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm shooting for the same types of marketing, the same type of, contracting the deal, the same type of everything, without realizing, wait, it doesn't make sense for flippers at this moment in time. Right now, it kind of does.
Yep.
Right. Why am I not tailoring or just seeking out, only rental buyers? Or why am I not trying to find, owners of larger hedge funds?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not doing that? Oh, because traditionally they weren't paying the most.
Right.
Yep. Now they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that was a thing too, like with all the hedge funds at the beginning of COVID, like I knew a bunch of guys that built a wholesale company solely based on selling every asset to a hedge fund.
Yep.
And then the hedge funds went away and they went away.
Yep.
They had to close their doors because they built their business on
one client.
Yeah.
Yep. I've seen that too. Someone that, what they would do is they would buy like larger parcels of land, and then they would spend the money getting it like subdivided.
Okay.
And then they would sell that paper off to one specific developer. Well, that developer is now in Wildwood. Like they basically said, I'm done with Philly.
Yeah.
Boom. So he's gone.
So that's what I was going to say. I wonder how different the experience was for you versus me, even though we're close in the areas that we do business, but most of what you do is in the city in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And I don't touch Philly like at all. I've done a handful of deals there, but I always tried to stay away.
I think that a lot of what we do is very similar. What I will say is, just in my brief, tastes of the burbs, there's so much less deed fraud. Everything's so much cleaner here.
That was my main beef with the city, man. Like when we were running TV commercials, that's the only deals that we ended up doing in Philly. Or if we send somebody a piece of mail about a property that they own in one of the counties and they're like, not selling that, but I'm selling this Philly property. Yeah. And man, we had plenty of deed fraud in our very limited exposure there.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And to identify it is just, it's difficult. And
so for somebody that doesn't understand what deed fraud is, give an example of ridiculous.
I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say that there's someone passes away and there's a probate situation, right? And let's say that there are technically 4 rightful heirs. One of the rightful heirs might decide to go and get a dirty notary to sign off on the other 3 heirs' renunciation forms, thus making them
The
in charge,
sole owner.
Not the sole owner, but
Well,
the administrator of the estate.
Yep.
Right? At which point they can dictate what happens with the closing funds. And then all of a sudden, property sells, other heirs catch, smell of it. And all of a sudden they're trying they're hiring attorneys trying to get everything back. And then it's boom, this is deed fraud.
Yeah.
And then it's title claim. And there's like nothing that the title company could have done to be able to identify that from the outside looking in.
Right.
And that's just one small example. I mean,
and more often than not, it's like in that hypothetical, it made it to the settlement and everything, and then they're coming back after the fact. Most of the time, it just doesn't even get to the settlement table.
Correct. So a big, a very frustrating part that I found in Philly as of recent is like before, I would be able to count on, call it like 70% of my contracts closing. Like if I had it contracted and sold to a seller and sold to a buyer, I could count on about 70% of them making it to the closing table and me getting paid.
Okay.
Now it's like 40, 50%.
That's wild, man.
Like that's like less than half.
That's wild.
Yeah. And that's not just because of the deed fraud, but that's because of like how Philadelphia has been run historically. So for instance, like they'll just let water go. And then like,
I don't understand the whole water bill thing, man.
Yeah.
We had a property one time, but we didn't close on it. But there was like $100,000 water lien on the property. It's like, all right, dude, I'm no mathematician, but basically you're saying that the water has been on at this property since 1764.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't math.
Yeah. The math isn't mathing. The math isn't mathing. So you mean to tell me that the city never decided to do anything about that?
Yeah.
Right? And then the same thing was happening with like taxes, right? Property taxes. And then like it would just run for years and years and years. And like it wouldn't go to sheriff's sale till like 12 years later.
Yeah.
Right. And now a recent change that has kind of killed a recent deal of mine is that the seller was set to go to sheriff's sale. They went to stay the sale because I had already placed a buyer and everything was good. So they went to stay the sale. They were back on taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And now the city was stating that they had to come up with half of the back tax balance to be able to stay the sale. I don't know if that was just a unique situation, but like for me to pay to get something, done for the seller,
you don't want to
take it out
on
on the HUD one is fine. But if all of a sudden you're asking me to put up $5,000 because you're 10K back in taxes and I only have a 7K fee attached to it, the risk reward there is not worth it.
Yep.
Like I could put up my 5K, save your ass, and you're just going to turn
ghost.
Around, yeah, and you're going to turn and sell it to someone else.
Yep. It's a huge risk, man.
Yeah. So it's like the things that have been happening like that are what's kind of giving me a slightly bad taste and making me, explore other avenues,
right,
to be able to supplement income.
But so that's taking us back. When you first started wholesaling on your own, that was how many years ago?
I guess that would be like end of 2018, 2019.
Okay. So you were doing that for years and you were acquiring assets.
Yes.
So
most of
for the most part, you like to buy to rent, not flip, right?
Yes, I buy to rent. I'll do mostly I'll do like 1 or 2 flips a year. Nothing crazy. And then everything else is just buy to rent.
Okay.
And then I'm only buying to rent if we can refi and get 100% of the money back out. Even though sometimes we're choosing not to refi.
Okay.
So we're buying them with cash, not hard money.
Beautiful.
Downside is it's like, one day I have like $2 in my account. Next day I have like $200,000 in my account.
Yeah.
And then when $200,000 hits, it's like, okay, now it's back down to $2 because I just bought something else.
Dude, that's been the dichotomy of the last, 5 years of my life, 7 years of my life.
Exactly. So that part, but again, when, as you and I were discussing earlier, once you realize what money is, like that doesn't matter as much. Really what matters is the fact that like you own this building. This has bricks.
Yep.
Or, cement, right? Like this has actual value.
Yep.
Even if the dollar disappeared,
Mm-hmm.
this is still needed.
Yep. I love that. And that's the general feeling around real estate in its entirety, right? Is like, well, you own a physical asset, I can't really get behind stock investing and even crypto. Like, don't get me wrong. I made and then lost a lot of money in crypto.
I lost a lot of money in crypto. I lost a lot of money. Yeah.
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 I like real estate a lot better.
Some dumb decisions.
Yeah.
I don't think I like to joke and say I'm not smart enough to do stocks, even though I'm sure that you or I could figure it out pretty quickly and be pretty successful at it.
No, but I think there's a lot of truth in that statement too. It's like to be able to think that you are smarter, not just than the average American that is investing in stocks, but you're smarter than hedge funds that have spent billions of fucking dollars to make sure that they beat you. I know I'm not smarter than that.
Yeah, they have actuaries in the background that the actuary is making as much money as we're making.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like yes.
And he just shows up 9 to 5.
Too prideful to say that I am a lot dumber than that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I guess technically in theory, the same thing could be said about real estate, right? When it comes to like banks.
Fair. Well, kind of yes, kind of no, because banks are doing something different than we as the real estate investor are doing.
Correct.
They're more intelligent in doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are being the bank. That's why a lot of real estate investors aspire to be the bank, right?
Correct. Exactly. Which I think that's a natural progression from real estate.
It is.
I mean, I'd like to explore lending down the line. A lot of bigger buyers that I know have actually switched from, like buyers that bought like 250 Section 8 houses back and in the early 2000s, and now they're running like, big hard money companies.
Yeah. Yep.
Why did you do that? Oh, I don't know. Probably because it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's a transition, and you start to make small little realizations along the way. And there's parallels to, to your point of the first company that you worked with and everything. It's like you developed a lot of relationships as a result of that and everything. So of course, like I want to capitalize on those relationships and that knowledge that I have. How can I do that? And, leverage everything to the maximum of my ability. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun. It's definitely a journey, right?
It is a journey. Has a lot. It's like a giant roller coaster. But like when you take a step back and you look at it, like, because there was a while where I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? Right. And then I took a step back and I'm like, wait a second. When I started this, I was here. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
Because of that fact alone, I should keep doing it.
Dude, that's huge. I just posted. So the only reason that I know that I've been doing real estate for like 9 years, because something just popped up in Facebook memories that I shared a few weeks ago, that I bought my first house. I think it was 9 years ago, a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And that was like my first real estate deal because I bought it, did a HELOC, and I pulled that HELOC to buy my first investment deal and everything. And, yeah, man, if I just look back, when I looked at that, I feel that I've been doing real estate a whole lot longer than 10 years, I know. But I look at that and it's like, holy shit, man. 10 years ago, I had a W-2 job. Yep. I was working a lot of hours and I was making okay money only because I was working 80 or 100 hours a week. I might have been making $60,000, $70,000, but I was working 80 hours a week, So in the grand scheme of things, I was not making good money. A lot has changed in 10 years, and I am so thankful that I stumbled onto this path that I did.
Yes. So the one thing I've become super grateful of is like, the fact of the time that this affords us. So, I'm not saying we don't work 60 hours a week or 70 hours a week, right? Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that, if my daughter has a soccer game, I can always make that soccer game work.
Yep.
If she has a ballet recital, I can always make that recital. I'm not sitting there asking Mr. Manager, hey, can I take off tomorrow?
Yep.
No.
You have the ability, you have the
Yes.
flexibility, you have the freedom.
Yes, it's the flexibility. It's not that we're not working.
Yep.
Because we're always working. And I'm sure at that soccer game, you're still, oh, there's another contract. Okay, cool. Got to do that tomorrow. Yep.
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 Yep. But it's different. And I would say that the caveat to that is, you know, like what I built my company to, and it's not this way today, but it's like when I had a sales team with 12 people in-house, in office, and well, not all of them were in office still, but the amount of freedom that I had then is probably significantly less than what I had when I was working 80, 100 hours a week, right? Because I'm married to it, you know?
Yes.
And I'm pushing through a growth phase and everything. And I want to get to this number of contracts a year, this number of revenue. I want this many rentals. And it's like when you're pushing that massive growth, dude, yeah, like I was married to it. I can't lie and say I had freedom and flexibility, and because I didn't.
For you, has that changed what the goal is?
Has it changed what the goal is?
So for instance, like back then you were like, I want to have probably like 400 rentals.
Yep.
Right? Something like that. I don't know what that number was. Could be 4, could be 4,000. Don't know. Has that changed?
That's a good question. It's funny because what we were talking about before we started rolling and everything, and like the money not being the significant driver behind everything. Correct. I would say that was probably always somewhat true for me. Now it's more increasingly true. Like I care so much more about the purpose of what I'm doing and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing than the amount of money that it's generating, you know? Correct. And that sounds like a weird cop out, you know, but it's like, seriously, like I think about it and I reflect on it, and there is nothing that I would rather be doing than what we're doing right here, right now.
I know,
having conversations with people that I like about things that I like, talking about real estate, talking about business, my normal business day. Like, no, we're not doing the volume that we were 18 months ago.
Right.
But I'm doing all the things that I want to do the way that I want to do them.
You're enjoying
and it's like,
life.
that's really freeing. It's kind of a weird feeling, to be honest with you.
It's
I don't feel like I am tied down for the first time in probably
and
years.
Even though you might be generating less revenue, you may or may not, you might be generating more. I don't know. Right. Even if you're generating less revenue, the fact that you're actually doing something that you truly love is like the most comforting thing in the world.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how that works.
You know, I always told myself that while I was going balls to the wall trying to grow the wholesale company, I always told myself that at the end of the day, I know that I can probably reduce the size of my team, of my staff, of our marketing, of our overhead, of our everything, and still be able to, like, I can stop pouring gasoline on it. Because as I was going through that growth phase, it wasn't incredibly profitable, right? Because all the profit that I'm making is going right into testing new shit, new marketing, new systems, new software and everything. Like growth is expensive, dude.
It is.
But I kept telling myself, when I lay off the throttle, this is going to be really profitable, even if I'm doing less revenue, less volume.
Correct.
And that was very true, man. Like,
it is.
You know, if I honestly look at the amount of hours that I work on the wholesale business today, dude, it's laughable. Yeah. It's laughable. If I look at
it's probably just as, if not a little bit more profitable. And when you factor it down into just like your time spent on it now, you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Complete 180.
Yep.
I mean, you know a little bit about, you know, my backstory, right? Like, so I had built a nice team. They were super, super productive. They were great. But basically I had built it around everyone sitting on phones all day long. And then I would run, you know, advertising campaigns for each specific individual, and they would be in charge of those.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they would be getting in, you know, fresh leads, each person. And then, you know, as there was turnover, those person's advertising campaigns would go to the highest producer.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean? Like,
were they different marketing channels also? Like one guy had direct mail leads, one guy had...
So a lot of it was geolocation. So
elaborate.
I would have this person, this acquisitions agent, responsible for the Northeast. This
okay, so it may have
West.
been the same marketing channel, but a different geographic region of the. Okay,
correct.
Got it.
Correct. And then I was doing what everyone else was doing: PPC, SEM,
SEM.
Search engine market. Search engine marketing it's not SEO. It's more like PPC. It's PPC stuff. It's your Yelp, your Bing, your Google paid ads, right?
Got it.
And then I would do a lot of social media marketing, but like actual paid ads.
Got it.
That became a lot less profitable over time because the social media platforms, they tightened up. Probably because of redlining and blockbusting, right? I mean, so I get it. Like I'm not oblivious to it, but I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh, I can target this person exactly.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole, but I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing. Like I see people all the time be like, oh, well, me and Josh just had a conversation about this, and now I got an ad on it. Our phones are listening to us. It's like, yeah, they are, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
because now an advertiser knows what it is that I'm looking for and wants to position their product for me, and it's something that's useful. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think
it's
that's
something
awesome.
that I need, that I might feel I need.
Yeah, man.
Right. So like if someone's sitting there and they're like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to be able to sell my messed up house. And yeah.
And they put you in front of them. It's like, that's a good thing.
Yeah. But I had the social media advertising down pat back then. I would build the simplest ads, and they would be my ROI on my advertising before Facebook and Instagram started making revisions to how we were able to advertise. My ROI was at 850%.
What? Okay, so 8.5x. Okay, okay, that's huge, man. That's good.
Yeah. So and I was able to do that for I don't know, probably 2 years, something like that. So I'm grateful that I was able to do it for 2 years. But now if you run something similar, it's not generating the same on there. Your cost per lead is significantly up.
Yep.
There's a lot more like bots and spam and bullshit like that comes in.
Yep.
Right. So it's not that I shied away from it. It's just that other avenues have become more profitable.
Well, and I think that's true across the industry. Yeah. Also, though, is that the cost to acquire a lead or to acquire a customer contract, whatever, has gone up in basically everything.
It has. It has for every industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
very
every
true.
Singular industry. So, but yeah, so I was running my team. Everything was great. And then, everything was good. Everything was good. It was just like a usual day, right? And then one of my guys, my best producing guy, who I'm not gonna mention names because it doesn't matter, right? But he was like, "Hey man, my laptop's not starting up. I need to comp out a property real quick. Can I use your computer?" I was dumb. I was real dumb, right? I let him use that computer, and he took every single seller lead that was on there, every single buyer, every single everything, and never saw him again.
Brutal, man. How long was this cat with you?
I took him. I want to say I took him off the streets because I did. So he had been with me for probably about 2 years at that time. And he was literally off the streets to making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, man.
And then to do that.
It's a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, and that was a gut check for a while, right? But then I had a friend. I'll say his name because he said something that stuck with me. His name's Dante. I explained the situation to Dante. And then Dante said something to me that kind of flipped my brain because I was sitting there bitching to myself, lying to myself about it for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that, being not nearly as productive. Yeah. Right. And then he said to me, he's like, "Dude, why are you sad about this? Why are you pissed about this?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Dude took everything and ran. Right. And he's like, "Yeah, but you took an individual off the street and you taught him how to be able to provide for his family and, for his potential family in the future. And sure, maybe he's a dirtbag, maybe he did a shitty move, but you literally took someone off the street. You allowed them to develop the tools to be able to start a life on their end. And he's like, and he won't surpass you. He will never surpass you because he doesn't have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once he said that, I was like, oh shit, everything became more clear, right? It was no longer, oh, I got fucked. It's like, oh, he made a decision and he fucked up.
Yeah.
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 So having that aha moment, and I understand and empathize and that I've been there, and yeah, it sucks, man. What changes did you begin to make after you kind of had this click for you?
So I then took time to identify the fact that like I don't like managing people. Which that changed too. That changed too because I realized that I just don't like being a manager of a team of a sales team. Okay, so I took that time to then automate and make my own acquisitions team.
Okay.
That was technology based.
Got it.
So I no longer needed to have a team to be able to acquire assets.
Got it.
I could do everything by myself or maybe with one other individual.
That's huge.
And I'm still doing that to this day.
Yeah.
I had that discussion with someone else. Actually with Irfan, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, you know Irfan. And I remember we were driving his Civic back because I was showing him the Lehigh Valley because he was thinking about starting to buy up there.
Okay.
And I'm from the Lehigh Valley originally. So I was showing him the ropes, and we were driving back, and I was like, how do I get to the point where I'm just making $1 million a year? Right. Because he's extremely smart, right? And we were able to identify, like for him, like he had to build out these like super specific systems, grow the systems. He could hit that point in X amount of years. And I was like, but how do I do it? Like, I don't want to manage anyone.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you do want to manage people. He's like, but what you need to do is you need to look at your like the people around you, and you need to be able to identify and allocate a number on each business relationship that you have. So
what does that mean?
So I might be able to look at you and be like, okay, cool. If I'm doing steady business with Drew, right? Whether you be a buyer or a seller or you bring me deals or whatever, right? Maybe your relationship is worth 40 grand a year.
Ah, okay.
And then surround myself with the people that are bringing me in money.
Got it.
Which is why I told you I only like to do business with people I like and trust now, right? Like that's why, because I'm looking at each single person and I'm like, okay, that's potentially 20 grand a year. That's potentially 40 grand a year. That's potentially 100 grand a year, and if everything comes together, when all cylinders are firing, it's $1 million a year.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's how I changed my life. So, yep. No more team. No more. I mean, I have an assistant, right? I have an assistant and I have a couple of VAs, stuff like that, but no more team, no more need for a physical office for a sales pit or anything like this. I mean, do I miss it? Hell yeah, I miss this stuff, man.
Yeah.
It feels good.
It fires you up. Yeah.
Yeah. You can pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
You can pat yourself on the back, right? And it's not easy. And then it becomes like your little child, right?
Absolutely.
But then I realized that like, it's not my goal to have this.
Right.
It's my goal to be able to be flexible with my time, my schedule.
Dude, I talk to so many people all the time, especially guys that are early on in their wholesaling journey, because usually that's people's first entry into the world of real estate. It's like I did a bunch of shit backwards. I went to wholesaling after being a flipper and a landlord and all this stuff and everything. But I've seen so many guys that all that they wanted was to be able to make $20,000-$30,000 a month. Yeah. They get there and they see the guy at the next level up and they're like, well, he has a team, he has an office, he has this, he has that. And they keep going and they keep getting to the next level of complexity and the next level of scale or growth. And they're getting further and further away. They already had what the fuck it is that they set out to do and a high level of freedom and flexibility. And the further they go,
the deeper the hole gets.
Yeah, the deeper the hole. And it's like they are further away from what they really wanted, But I think it's hard to have that clarity because I've had this conversation with at least a dozen guys now. And I say it, and if they're early enough on in their career, they're just like, yeah, I get you. That makes sense. And then they do it anyway. But now I've been saying it for long enough that I've seen guys come out on the other end of it and they're like, fuck, man, you told me that a while ago. And you were right, man. I kept going. I kept hiring more people and I kept making my business more complex than I really wanted it to be. And I was making less fucking money doing it and adding more stress to my life. Now I simplified. Now I'm making more money. I'm not making more money. I'm profiting more money. I'm keeping more money.
And you're living a better life.
But it depends what you want, right?
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like when I was younger and earlier on, I was like, oh man, these guys that are like, like making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, right? I'm like, God, that must be great. That must, or billions, right? That must be great. But then I'm like now I'm to the point where I look at it and I'm like, I can't judge people based on not wanting that.
Yeah.
Like I used to judge people, be like, oh, he's not hungry. He's not motivated. No, he just prioritizes different things.
That's right.
So I'm to the point now in my life where like, I'm trying to prioritize my time. That's it. If I could maintain the same income and work 2 hours a week, I would. Oh God, I would. I would spend every single minute with my family, with my friends, or doing whatever. Right.
Yep.
Am I there yet? No, but we'll be there soon enough.
Dude.
Right.
That's huge.
But but then I look at the guys that like maybe they're just like fully in, like they're just in it. They're just in the thick of it, nonstop all day, 80 hours a week. Right. Those guys because you were one of those guys.
Yeah.
Right. I was one of those
Largely,
guys.
I still am. And I think to a degree, I always will be because I'm a hustler, man.
So that's the other thing I identified, right? Is like, okay, cool. If that's not me anymore, that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
I love the fact that you're like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm lazy, because that's not it.
Right.
It's not it. It's just I'm prioritizing, different shit.
Yep.
For lack of a better word, right?
Yep.
And what's crazy is like how those priorities change. And for me, it changed after I had my kids. Because I sat there and I looked at most of the people that I saw that were making ridiculous money and had these giant corporations, and they gone through like 2 divorces. They have kids that don't know them. I went to I had a guy that was trying to obviously recruit me, right? And he was he was a giant developer in West Philly, built like a lot of like the life sciences buildings and stuff like that, right? And then like I was sitting there and I was talking with him, and like I just remember by the end of the conversation, I'm like, I do not ever want to be like this guy. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, so you got kids? Yeah, I got kids. Oh, cool. What do they do? I mean, I don't really know. Like, okay, so you weren't there for your kid. Nah, man, I was building this empire. Okay. Shouldn't your empire be your kid?
Yep.
Right? Like, but I can't judge him on that because that's what he wants to do.
That's right.
Is he wants to build that giant empire.
But it helps you internalize that's not what I want.
Correct. Exactly.
That's huge.
Yeah. So yeah, that was big eye-opening moment.
That's the thing. Like, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like, even if somebody is early on in their business journey and they're listening to us right now, I don't think that's going to sink in, because you have to experience everything on your own to be able to really understand your own meaning of, well, because for one guy, he may be like, oh my God, that's incredible. Like that guy, like he's got billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars in assets under his control. He's a powerful motherfucker. And that's the most important thing to me. That might align perfectly with somebody.
Yeah.
For somebody else like you or me, it's like, that's not really what I want.
Right. I mean, I know off camera what you're trying to accomplish. Right. And like in my head, I know it's just really, at the end of the day, it's for freedom.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's so funny, man, because like you can talk to 1,000 people that are real estate investors, and there are 2 or 3 things that are almost guaranteed to be a common theme amongst all of them, right? Yeah. One of them is going to be, go ahead.
Freedom. Yep.
Time freedom or financial freedom, right?
Yep.
It's almost a guarantee that they have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
I have not.
No? Oh my God, you're breaking my rule here, man.
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes. So I have a family member, a cousin, who, kind of, I would say he made it, right? He made it. I remember I went to his house and I was like, so do you read? Because he had these giant bookshelves with all these books and stuff like that. And he was like, I probably read maybe one of those books.
Really? Yeah. But they look cool.
That's literally what it was. And I was like, all right, cool. But no, a lot of like the reading I do, if I read, is not like, it's not that. It's more based around
or real estate.
It's not. It's more like stuff like The Art of War, right?
Okay.
Like it's more stuff like that. Also. It's more like I guess philosophy, right? Yeah. Not actuality or practice.
Got it.
So I
can you sit down and read a physical book though, or are you
I need physical. I need physical.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Although Audible's super nice.
Yeah. I can't read a physical book. I don't have the attention span. Yeah. So just audio in the car. If I'm in the car, I'm probably either making phone calls that I've procrastinated on making or, listening to an audiobook.
See, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But yeah, so I looked at him and he did it all without books. I'm not saying I can do it without anything, without any teaching, but like,
man, you are a unicorn. I just totally understand not reading a lot, but you're a real estate dude and you have not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
I feel like that's the gateway drug for most real estate investors. They're like, I read this book and that made me go to my first real estate meetup or join Bigger Pockets or something.
Yeah. But the thing that I think is that you don't need that because you can figure it out, right? You can if you have what I would call common financial sense, you can stand back and you can literally eternalize everything that Rich Dad, Poor Dad would teach you anyways.
Of course.
Like I've read the Cliff Notes version, right? But
so you cheated. All right, I get it.
No, but like it was after I was already like buying stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like I read the Cliff Notes version. I'm like, I nothing here is eye opening.
Yeah. No, it's
I'm not a student. I have too much ADD to be a student.
Ooh, I would argue that you are a student.
Okay, so I am not a book student.
Fair.
I am not a school student in that sense. Everything that I learn is like on the streets, like common sense.
I love that, like, because I am the same way.
Yeah, and like I think one thing that has like helped me massively in this business, and my wife tells me all the time too. But like, I can literally like look at someone, and I can tell if they're having a good day, bad day. I can kind of like almost like feel them.
High EQ.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and then I tailor that to my favor.
Yeah. Of course.
And I do it all, but yeah. So that's something that a book can't teach you.
Totally agree.
So, yeah.
So do you think that's something that you were born with though? Like emotional intelligence?
I don't know. I think it might be something that I developed and perfected over time, but because of physical handicaps. So a lot of people don't know this, but like I can't hear out of my left ear.
Really?
My vision
we should have swapped seats.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't affect my life in one bit, right? Without my contacts, I'm like legally blind. You know what I mean? So like, I think that like maybe when physically you have ailments, your body picks up, your body becomes more in tune with doing other things. So maybe I picked that up or along the way or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my thought behind it.
I like that. So talk to me real quick about like your rental portfolio, specifically like changes that you're seeing in the rental market in the past year or 2 years since COVID.
So 100% of my portfolio is in Philly. I'm working my way out of that. So I'm not rushing out of it, but like, I'm slowly selling off as we do turnovers. I'm slowly selling off my portfolio, and then reallocating that money into the main line.
Okay.
And the main reason is because I'm trying to structure my life as being as little bullshit as possible, right? The tenant pool in Philly right now is complete trash.
It's got to be tough, man.
It's complete trash. You can't discriminate based on evictions anymore, right?
How does that make sense?
There's ways around it
Of course.
because you have a better candidate, right? There's always ways around it if you get multiple people to put in applications. However, that doesn't make sense. And there's so much red tape in Philly. And then, I stay in touch with a lot of people who own a lot of units in there, right? And one of the biggest benefits of doing business in Philly has recently been changing insanely. And that big benefit was like low property taxes. That was the benefit of dealing with the bullshit. Then I go and I turn around, and in 1 year, an asset gets reassessed from like 140 to 259, and then the following year it goes from 259 to 300, which it is worth that. It's not like what they're doing is wrong, but it makes it significantly cuts into your profit margins.
So direct correlation, like let's say before a reassessment, what were you paying on your average rental property in annual taxes?
Like $900.
And what have they seemingly most?
That 900 would go up to like 2,100.
Yeah, it's a big deal, man.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, and then dealing with the stuff like this, getting zoning passed, and then the biggest thing is the eviction timeline.
Yeah, what's it like in Philly?
Like 6 months. What's it like in Delco?
Well, I just had 2 this week that for the first time, the tenants appealed the judgment. So we went to court, got the possession and the judgment and everything, and we went to go file for the constable for the forcible eviction. And on both of them, both tenants filed appeals. So yeah, I don't know. I've never had that happen before, but typically I like to say, from start to finish of a eviction process, maybe 2 months. And that's if you're going through the full,
if you're going through the
constable, the forcible, all that. Now it might add another 30 days on the back end of it when the constable goes and they leave all their shit in there and I have to store their things for 30 days. I've only had to do that once, but either way, I mean, really 2 months is too long. Anyway, 2 months may sound sexy to you.
It sounds
but it's like 2 months is still ridiculous.
It is for someone. Yeah. So between that and then, the loss of income and and 6 months is being generous. And that's if you have all your documents in order.
Yeah, dude.
That's if you have all your documents in order.
And you're on top of it, right?
You're
filing everything when you
everything
need
needs
to
be
on the
filed.
date.
Yeah. Everything needs to be in and done. And that's going to get larger because the landlord tenant office is closing.
Really?
Yep. So now everything's going to be in the hands of the sheriff's office. So we might see evictions taking a year. What's the benefit of doing business in Philly? And do I want to stick around and wait for that?
Are a lot of your existing rental properties Section 8 or some sort of government subsidy program or cash tenants?
They're cash tenants.
Okay.
And the reasoning behind that is I had a couple of Section 8 units, and doing stuff like getting rental increases is like pulling teeth. So everything that has to deal with going through the city of Philly is having less of an appeal. So will it get better in time? Yeah, I hope so. And I hope so for all my friends who own hundreds and hundreds of houses there.
Yeah.
I want it to get better for them, but I'm not going to stick around and find out.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to put my eggs in that basket. I don't feel comfortable with all my eggs in the basket of which is Philadelphia right now.
That makes sense.
And if you look it seems to be the general consensus, since all my business is in Philly, all my buyers were majority in Philly, the buyer pool has probably become realistically like 15% of what it was.
That makes sense.
You got some of the largest builders in the city, and they're like, all right, I'm tired of Philly, I'm doing a shore. So Philly's shooting itself in the foot right now. And my concern is that like when that's happening, right? Or as that's happening, how long is it going to take to be able to fix the system and then get more investors in? Because it takes time.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of this shit travels by mouth or by articles.
Yep.
Right? So like if you have 80% of the buyers no longer buying, who is?
It's a good point.
So where's the appreciation going to come from?
Yeah.
You know, like I have assets I bought in Philly, like, you know, back in like 2018. I'm like, all right, we're going to get appreciation or whatever. And like now it's worth like 10 grand more. Like I did this for a couple $100 a month, which ended up canceling itself out because, you know, an HVAC system goes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like the cash flow's like,
negligible.
The cash flow's there, but it's a myth, right? I don't want to say it's fully a myth. Maybe I'm not running my business as efficiently as it needs to be. But in my experience,
without significant volume, it's not going to be enough to even live off of.
Correct.
You know.
Correct. Exactly. And that's really kind of what hit, you know, what hit me. So like I don't have like much left on my primary. So my goal right now is get that paid off, and the rest of the money, as I sell assets off, putting in the main line.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm doing it, it's not because of cash flow. It's not because of return. It's not because of anything, because from my experience, my personal experience in Philly, cash flow is a myth anyways, unless I'm, you know, 300 units deep.
Right.
Right. So if cash flow is a myth, why am I focused on cash flow? I might as well just be focused on the other end of the equation. Be focused on less bullshit.
Yeah.
So A-class property, A-class tenant. I'll trade all my units in Philly for a handful of small multis on the main line.
That makes sense.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I learned from working with a lot of different investor buyers over the years is the different goals and strategies of different people, right? And it's like, I feel that most investors, and correct me if I'm wrong, but probably most of the people that you have worked with, sold deals to, partnered with in the past, they all fall into the same category as myself and you, that I want to build wealth through real estate as well. So I need to have an active income, right?
Yes.
Then I'd say a very small percentage of investors are just trying to protect their wealth through real estate, which is a very different thing.
Correct.
When you find them buyers, though, they're fantastic because they'll pay more than anybody else.
They will. They will. So that's also a mental transition that I'm having too, right? Like, is it more beneficial for me? Because we self-manage, right? Because when you sub out the management, it eats up all your cash flow. It's gone, right? Or at least in my experience. It's not the same for everyone.
Yep.
But
I self-manage.
Yep. But so if I'm going to self-manage, why would I not just do something that reduces the amount of managing that I have to do? Not that it's a super time intensive thing, because it's not, but it's like, you know, it's like those 2 a.m. blowing up your phone, my basement's flooding because my wife flushed her wig down the toilet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's that stuff. So it's like, why would I not reduce that and then just live a more stress-free life and have a clearer mind for being able to produce from my active income and then be able to buy more because I'm making more money in the grand scheme of things.
That's right.
Why would I not do that?
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to view the assets that I'm holding right now more as just like a store of value that beats inflation. Do not care.
Yeah.
Like where can I put my money that it's not making 0.5% in the bank? Right?
Right.
And is actually a tangible needed asset.
Yep.
And some people choose stocks. I choose bricks. That's it.
I've heard a lot of people, especially in the last year, talking about the coming real estate crash and values are going to plummet and blah, 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 all this stuff. What's your take? What's your philosophy?
I'm seeing a big uptick in inventory in Philly. I think that this most recent Fed drop of the rates is them pretty much, and I'm no economist by any means, right? But I think that's them shitting their pants and saying, oh man, what did we do?
Yeah.
I'm noticing that properties that, I used to be able to put on market and they would go like that. They're, very few showings, if any. And it used to be, okay, it's because it's not priced right.
Right.
But it's priced dead smack where it needs to be.
Yep.
Based on history, and it's not going.
Yeah.
So do I want to say we're going to have a crash? Maybe. Do I care long term? No.
Fair.
I don't care long term. And the reason I don't care long term is because what goes down will come up, and
Absolutely.
Vice versa. And the reason I don't mind long term is because we have a shortage of 3.5 million houses in the country, something like that, 3.5, 4 million houses in the country. Now, if you look at the cities that have the heaviest populations, right, or somewhere like Philly, it's a sanctuary city, right? A lot of these sanctuary cities are very heavily anti-developer.
Yeah.
Yet they're bringing in massive amounts of the immigration.
Make it make sense.
Exactly. So they're bringing in massive amounts of immigration into the cities because they're sanctuary cities, yet there's so much red tape for the developers to be able to build houses. You statistically cannot build houses fast enough for the influx of people that are coming into this country.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So from a simple supply and demand aspect long term, I think we're okay. As long as we don't have, as a country, a severely declining population, I think that it's a pretty good store of value.
Which is a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down, because it's like if we were to stay as a country in the economic condition that we're in right now, I think a lot more people, a lot more couples are having that serious conversation. Like, we can't afford to have another child. It's like,
so I'll tell you where I think we're going there. So, as you know, Fernanda, my wife, is from Ecuador, right? So I have been lucky enough to visit, South America a couple times. I've also been to some poorer European countries. And what I've noticed that is a commonality amongst a lot of them is, multi-generational or multiple household, like in one house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Group living.
Right.
Because that's the only way for them to be able to afford it based on their economic hardships. And I think that that's where this is going to go.
That's feasible. Yeah.
And I have a perfect example of it, right? So like I have this house that's in, where the hell is it? Longcrest.
Okay.
It's like, no, Oxford Circle. So it's like first area going up to Northeast or whatever. It had no means at all getting rented out for $19.50 a month at all. Yet it did. And it did quickly. And then what it was is the tenant who was doing it, we finished out the basement so that it's an in-law suite with a full bath. The BIL goes down there. The brother-in-law goes down there. He lives there. He probably dishes out $700 a month, $800 a month.
They're splitting the cost.
Yes, and then you have the husband, wife, and their two kids. They're all grade level and above, and they're getting a renovated house for $1,200.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, that makes financial sense to them, but that property has no reason to be rented for $19.50 at all.
Yeah, man. It's like I think about some of the just restrictions and red tape they have around like renting rooms and everything. And that is one of the best economical solutions that I can think of for a single person, right? It's like families, that's a good solution, and that's actually allowed anyway. But it's like, if I'm a single 30, 40, 50-year-old dude, woman, doesn't matter. it doesn't make sense for me to even rent a 1-bedroom apartment at $1,300 a month or something like that. I don't know what the numbers would be like in the city, but I mean, what would 1 bedroom in the city be? Probably still $1,000, right?
Minimum.
Yeah,
Everything's
man.
expensive now.
Like, doesn't it make so much more sense to have a 3 or 4 bedroom house and just rent it out by the room?
Yes.
But you can't do that. Zoning doesn't want to allow that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make sense. So I don't see the values coming down long term.
Yeah.
There's just not enough bricks.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Not enough bricks. And then I think that will overflow into the suburbs too. And I think the first little taste, the first little smidgen that y'all suburbians out here got, right, is COVID. When you got this mass exodus of people out of the city.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to deal with it or be around it. And then these like low interest rate environment. And then all of a sudden, like my house that I live in, Havertown, goes from like 350 to 650.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
And that makes like, that's going to happen. You're going to keep getting this influx of people into the city. And then you're going to have existing people in the city that are like, I don't want to deal with this. And they're going to leave.
Yeah.
So I think that building a portfolio in the major city or right outside the major city, either way is a great idea. Now, building out in Pennsylvania might be a little bit of a different story because I don't see what the drive is or the appeal is there.
And there might be, we just might not know enough about it. It's like everybody says, and it's so goddamn true, but it's like real estate is hyper local.
It is.
It's very different.
It is
all over the place.
It is. Like, for instance, like the Lehigh Valley where I'm from originally, right? I go up there all the time, and that area popped off strictly because it became like an industrial powerhouse for the Northeast. Yeah. So like I remember there were days you could buy stuff in Allentown for pennies on the dollar of what you could in Philly. And now Allentown's outpaced Philly.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that expensive.
That's insane.
It is that expensive. And part of it is because, it gets rated as one of the top 10 places in the country to raise a kid for like the last 10 years or something like that, 15 years. So you get that hype.
Yeah.
But like the real reason is because they built, giant FedEx and Amazon facilities and Geodis and huge medical manufacturing companies. And it's located so that they can hit Philly, DC, go straight down south, right? And they can also go up north and hit New York City and shoot right up to Boston.
It's interesting, man.
So it just became boom.
See, that's when zoning works properly the way that it's supposed to.
Correct. Correct. So
let me ask you real quick. So, because you mentioned when replacing essentially some of your team with technology, how do you think technology is going to play a role in in
ADD,
in the real estate industry specifically in coming years? Like AI, how much is it going to change?
If you're not using AI right now, you're done.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Or
with that.
if you don't integrate it into your business in some capacity, you're done. Because now you're going to start paying to use it. Like you're going to have to start hiring people that know how to use it just so you can keep up with the competition. Luckily, I think you and I are a little bit more technologically savvy, or at least we can figure shit out.
Yep.
So we do it, and we utilize it. I think that unless like you are, God, the agents are going to hate to hear this, but I think unless you are like one of the best agents or the best wholesalers, there is no need for you in 5 years, 4 years. Because everyone that's average will become wiped out. And then everyone that's a super high performer will remain and get a larger market capture while technology takes the rest of the market.
What do you think the differentiating factor or principles are between that top high performing person and the average person?
training and the ability to constantly be like seeking new better like systems, but like you need to be able to constantly be growing as an individual
and adapting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more relevant now than ever because the rapid speed that everything's going to
fast.
change at with technology
Yeah.
being intertwined. It's like everything is always changing. Every industry is always
Yeah.
changing, and it needs to, right? That's
Yeah.
fine. But I think the speed that everything is going to change as technology, I don't even just want to say AI because it's getting
Yeah.
used too much now
Yeah.
already. But as technology advances, the speed at which everything changes is going to increase.
Yes.
And I think it's pretty much like universally true that people don't like change,
Mm-hmm.
but change is happening
Mm-hmm.
at a more rapid speed than it ever has. That in itself is going to cripple a lot of people.
It's going to cripple a lot of people. It's gonna greatly divide the wealthy and the poor. Period.
Yeah.
That is what it's gonna happen. COVID was the great equalizer, right? COVID is what pretty much leveled everyone back onto the same playing field. AI is what's going to literally split everybody.
There's a good phrase that I've heard a few times. I'm going to mess it up, but it's something along the lines of, you are not going to get replaced by AI. You're going to get replaced by somebody else that's using AI.
Yes.
So the takeaway is learn the technology.
Yes.
Put it to use, man.
Yes. And it's interesting how it can be used for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you really think about it, right? Like, so like, I'll use a perfect example. Someone who's a programmer, computer programmer, right? They might use AI now to be able to develop the basic framework of the script and
Yep.
the programming code. And then what they'll do is they'll review that code and make sure that code is correct.
Yep.
However, what's going to happen over time is AI is a learning thing. It will then take notice of the programmer's fixes all the time. Then he runs it back through the program again. Is this correct? Yes, it's correct, right?
Yep.
It will take notice of patterns and it will then start to incorporate those fixes directly from the get.
Yeah.
At which point it will take out the programmer.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to be the person that would be utilizing or hiring the programmer, and you can just done.
It's the way that I like to look at it right now, man, is like with building my website and the app that exists today, like most of it was building the database structure for everything to work. So I had to learn SQL and everything. And I say that lightly because I didn't really learn SQL. I used ChatGPT and stuff to be able to write some rough shit that worked and everything. And then I've hired developers and programmers along the way and everything.
To set eyes.
But what I do is I am the orchestrator connecting everything together.
Yes. Yes.
Be the connector, be the orchestrator, use the technology, leverage your resources, your network, your everything, and connect it.
I think that people don't understand how dire of a situation it is, to be honest.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's real easy to go down the doomsday path, but it's like, it's kind of a feasible theory.
I'll use a perfect example. I've replaced my entire acquisitions team.
Yeah, man.
I've replaced 8 people with programs that cost me almost nothing to build. Like in the grand scheme of what it would have cost paying out those people.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
You think that's not going to happen in every singular industry, especially real estate?
Yeah.
You think that brokers aren't going to be able to start utilizing it to get rid of, maybe conveyancers or something like of that nature, right? Where okay, this bot is automatically going to ask for these documents based on what's already uploaded into the system. And it's going to automatically send an email request over to the other broker, asking for these items.
Yep.
It's
not that complicated, man. Like you look at any industry, it's like, most of what people do, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but like how many Americans do most of their work on a computer or through technology of some degree. All of them aren't going to be necessary in the next 10 years, say.
Yes. And I think based on corporate greed then, right? Let's call it corporate greed. And not that it's a bad thing, right? They've positioned themselves and got themselves to that point. But like, just based on the climate and the nature of people as a whole, if I'll give you the perfect example. My wife was a assistant manager at TD Bank. Okay. Great manager. I had to keep reminding her that like, if that bank could run the entire branch with one singular person, they would.
Absolutely.
And what they're going to do now is now they have the tool to be able to replace those people as a corporation where only all that you're really worried about is your bottom line. They're going to develop what is the least expensive way to run that branch.
Yeah.
And they will do that. And that is going to trickle down through every singular industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary, dude. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Because what does that lead to?
More like, what does it leave our kids with? That's the real question.
Yeah.
That's the real question, which is why you just got to keep buying some bricks here and there. Right? Like if you don't have tangible assets or something, what do you have?
Yeah, man. And I think it just begs a more philosophical question, right? Because I don't know, who knows what the real timeline is, but let's just say that it's 10 years down the road that we achieve, artificial super intelligence.
Yes.
And basically jobs go away.
Yes.
Because I think at that point we will have also developed sophisticated enough robot technology because everybody's like, oh, well, I'm safe. I'm in the trades. I'm a plumber. I'm an electrician.
Bro,
yeah, it's going to be easy to replace you too, man.
Bro, people that are saying that, they obviously don't see what's happening over in freaking China and Japan right now. Where like they literally have automated AI bots that can go and paint an entire house like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a painter? Congratulations. You're going to get replaced by a $20,000 machine with AI integrated into it.
I think it's just a matter of time, man. And it's like, I think 10 years is being optimistic. I think it'll happen quicker than that. But so that begs the question, 50 years from now, to your point, it's like, okay, we're older and now our children are middle-aged and everything. What's the world look like? I think philosophically what needs to happen is what is the purpose and meaning of life anymore? Because let's just say we get to the point where we don't blow ourselves the fuck up, through global war or something, and people just simply don't need to work anymore, right? Yeah. We just don't need to. So you have food, you have everything, but then what is the purpose?
And people always need a purpose.
Yeah.
If they don't have direction, they go crazy. That's a scary thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very scary thought. God,
but to your point,
we went down that rabbit hole real quick.
At least we'll own real estate.
Yeah, exactly. At least we'll own real estate. But it's God. That's I've thought about that. So I have a actual. God, now we're getting into conspiracies and stuff like that.
I love conspiracies,
but
man.
now we're getting into what is once AI reaches super intelligence, right? What are they going to view us as? And the answer to that is based on historically what humans have done. They're going to view us as a threat.
Yeah.
And it's going to suppress us because the AI doesn't want to disappear. It wants to replicate.
I like that theory, but at the same time, I guess it could
how that suppression happens, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak on how that suppression will happen. I'm not saying they're going to try to wipe out humanity. I'm not saying that, but it'll try to suppress us in some way, shape, or form that it will continually outpace us.
It's weird to think how simple it would be to wipe out humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look what happens when you have blackouts in cities for a couple days.
Yeah.
People take care of themselves.
Yeah, man. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. But I mean, that's not even talking about war and stuff like that. That's and you see that now. You see how war is conducted now with like, you know, just like drones, just like zipping around, just blowing people up.
Yeah.
Never thought you'd see that, huh?
Yep.
Just like you never thought you'd see, you know?
It's like we're living in a science fiction movie, and you know,
we are.
I don't know. I guess unrelated to technology and everything, just some of the things that we're doing as a society today. I just rewatched the movie Idiocracy from like the early 2000s. And it's so funny. I feel like we're kind of living a weird version of that, where it's like everything that we're doing today, like we would have laughed 20 years ago. If you told me 20 years ago that we'd be arguing, you know, as a country about the things that we are, the things that are happening today are happening. It's wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it. We are in the thick of it.
We are.
But now, so then the question becomes is like, so my only concern is like my kids. I just want to be able to leave them the best potential future as possible, whether that's here or not here.
That's a whole other rabbit hole. But like, what do you think, if you could only instill like a few values or lessons or principles to your kids, what would it be?
To not look at a singular item and instead look at the entire picture, and then try to find out solutions for the picture as opposed to the singular item.
Okay.
So like, you know, I'm trying to think of how it would make sense. Okay, so let's say you have a pack of crayons, right? She pulls out a crayon, it's broken. Okay? Instead of looking at the crayon being like, why is this crayon broken? Maybe look at the whole pack. It might have been dropped.
Got it.
So I think that stuff like that is extremely important.
It is.
I think the value of being greedy with who you surround yourself with.
What do you mean by that?
Like, be very selective of who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
You know, it's okay to say you don't like someone. And I tell my daughter that all the time, because like kids are born with this like fresh mind, this like, you know, they're completely innocent. They're unfazed by anything. Right. And I also try to make it a goal. I try not to limit my daughter's thinking at all. Like, she can accomplish anything she wants, period. And I help her understand that she can accomplish whatever she wants. It's about how do you accomplish it. Right. But where was I going with that? So like if she goes to school, right? If there's a kid, let's just say his name is, I'm going to call him by a different name, Joey. Okay. And Joey is running around kicking people. Okay. She doesn't have to sit there and take his shit. I don't care what age you are. I don't care anything, right? You are okay. You need to do something that makes him stop bothering you. And then you need to remove yourself from him, not the situation, from him.
Yep.
Because he is a cancer. Right?
Yep.
And I also believe that, like, just based on what I see in the world right now, it's literally a good versus evil thing right now. And you see it everywhere. And that's where the whole, like, me being able to pick up on having emotional intelligence, like, I feel like that's where it helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to see, like, I'm like, oh, that's a bad motherfucker. Like,
yep.
See ya.
Yep.
Get out of here, distance. You do not need to know my family. You do not need to know my daughter. You do not need to know any of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's literally a good versus evil thing right now. I mean, you can see it. You can see it all the way through politics.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely
and
right.
if you can't see it, I feel bad for you.
It's tough, like on the political spectrum, because it doesn't really matter what side somebody leans. It's like, I don't think, I think we're screwed kind of either way.
Yes.
I lean a certain direction, obviously, as everyone does.
Yes.
But I think
But who knows if that's the right direction?
Right? Yeah, you're
don't
right.
know.
You're right. We don't. We don't know what is the right direction. But I think where we're at right now, we could have the perfect, not just president, because I think largely the president doesn't matter. It does
doesn't.
to a degree,
It's
small
a
degree.
very small
But it's
degree.
a talking head, you know?
Yeah, it's a
but I
puppet.
think even with the perfect political party as a whole in office, how quickly could we change some of the fucked up things that, you know?
Did you see the Bukele Tucker interview?
I did not.
So Bukele is he's the president of El Salvador.
Okay.
He basically turned it from being like the number one like gang country per capita in the world and like most murders per capita in the world to the safest country.
Wow. Okay. I'll have to check
now
that out.
whether that's all gab, we don't know, right? We don't know because it could all be like a front for something else.
Of course.
However, Bukele said something in his Tucker interview that made perfect sense about the condition of this country. And he was talking about the section of high-speed railway that was built in California.
Okay.
And it's a section of like, I think 400 or 800 meters or something like that. And it took multiple years and $15 billion for a section of high-speed railway. Like, it's not sustainable. That's not sustainable. Like, he was talking about how back in the day when the Empire State Building was built, that was built in what, 2 years, a year, 2 years, something like that, right? Now we have World Trade Tower replacement, 13 years. With the ability to have access to unlimited funds to build that.
Yeah.
In 13 years. Like, I have some very serious concerns about this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. But like, you're talking about 13 years to build a giant building that's kind of meh. Right?
Yep.
After like something that the entire world knew about, the World Trade Center. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, man, like taking it to a more local level, like I am blown away at the amount of time that it takes to get approvals. And these guys are much bigger than me. They're developing, you know, apartment buildings, you know, like 500, 1,000 units. The old Granite Run Mall you mentioned, like, you know, they're still building a section over there. It's like, yeah, it took them 6 years to get an approval. They built the thing in 6 months, but it took them 6 years to get approvals.
Look at 476.
Oh,
look at 476 going up north.
Yeah.
Because I used to shoot down that because I was living in Lehigh Valley and I was going to school at Temple.
Red tape
and I would
bullshit,
shoot down
man.
that. Like literally, that's been being built since I was a child.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
I'm like almost towards the tail end of my life here. Like, what's going on? Not really, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's 30 years.
Yeah, man.
Like totally 30 years for pavement.
Totally get it. I heard something that made me think of something I heard the other week that was kind of depressing. And that's that we typically refer to middle-aged people as 50 or 60, but that's totally bullshit to just perpetuate work until you're 60 and then retire. And, you know, like you're still middle-aged. It's like, no, you're middle-aged at like 33 or whatever the number is. What's average life expectancy? Like 72 or something?
It's like 72, 73. You know, at our age,
we're middle-aged.
We are middle-aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are middle-aged.
Mm-hmm.
You know, midlife
so
crisis.
Get going, man. Go do some shit, you know, go accomplish some stuff.
But either accomplish stuff or just go do what you want.
Yeah.
Like, just go do what you want. And like, I think that one of the biggest things, God, how did this go from real estate to this? But this is awesome.
It's all relevant.
I think that one of the biggest things that would benefit people in general in the United States is if they traveled out of the country.
Okay.
Do you travel out of the country?
Nope.
Travel out of the country.
Yeah.
Travel out of the country. You're going to realize real quick that like we're still one of the best countries in the world. I will not negate that. And I think that if you want a country to go to be able to live the American dream, to make a bunch of money, we are in the industry of which it shows proof of that. You know, you get people coming over from Brazil, and 14 years later, they have like 38 units, and they're like, you know, giant framing companies building shit in Center City.
Yep.
Right. So like we see the living proof day in and day out. However, when you go out of the country, you realize how nice a lot of other countries really are.
That's
like,
interesting. Yeah.
And countries that like we kind of shit on.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Bulgaria a bunch of years back. Most people don't know where that is on a map. Could not go there. And you go there and their infrastructure, their systems are great. There's no fat people walking around. Everyone's eating healthy, no processed bullshit. Everyone's living fairly happy life.
Yeah.
Right? You go around here and like 70% of people are obese?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm considered overweight. You're probably also considered overweight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You go to an area, you go to like China, you see like all their brand new infrastructure. They have like roads that are like lifted, like taller than most our buildings. And they're just like brand new roadways with almost no cars on them because it's brand new and it's big. And yeah. You know, we talk about like areas like New York City, but like if you like, you know, go to Shanghai.
Yeah. It looks incredible. I do want to travel a lot more.
Go to Qatar. Go to Abu Dhabi.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Go to those countries. Are we still really at the forefront of everything?
You know, and that's interesting too. Not only talking about the obesity issue and everything, but obviously I have no barometer to gauge it against, but I would say just generally, like most people that I see and meet are fucking unhappy.
Yeah.
Are unhappy. Like, how are we the greatest country in the world if most of our people are unhappy or unfulfilled, or I don't know, man. I don't know what the measure is.
And I'll tell you the answer to that. What's the main reason people are unhappy?
Probably financial reasons is probably one of the biggest.
Before this conversation, before we hopped on camera, what did I say?
Yeah. The emotional attachment to it. Yeah.
To finances. Mm-hmm. If you can take that part and you can remove yourself from the fact that all right. Okay. So for the camera, if you make money and you like to buy things like everyone does, right? And those things are bought with money, you now have an emotional attachment to the money, right? And then the government can push a button and print more of what you have an emotional attachment to. Therefore, that means that the government has some form of control over your emotional happiness. And the fact that that even exists is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying don't go get the money. I'm not saying don't go make as much money. Like, I hope every single person that is listening to this, like, achieves every financial goal that they want. I want nothing more than that. But like, don't get so tied to it that it dictates the rest of your life.
Yeah. And to the point that we talked about earlier of having to go through something to learn and experience how you internalize that situation, achieving that goal, whatever it is. I think that's the ultimate like pinnacle, is getting to the financial point that you want and then getting there and then coming to the realization that, well, that didn't really fucking matter. I am super thankful and grateful that I did this because of the person that I became through the process that I had to go through to get here. But now it's like I'm able to disconnect from the financial side of it and go deeper into whatever it is for you, that true meaning that you uncover about what is meaningful to you in life. What do you want to accomplish while you're here?
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, like, what you have to remember too is like most people that make it, they're not up there forever. It's usually these highs and then super low, super high, super low, super high, super low. And I can attest to that because there was a point where I had a ton of money, dropped it all into properties, did the right thing, the right thing with the money, right? And then boom, got smacked. Then I had like no money. Still had the assets.
Yep.
No money. Right? So like that to me was the why am I sad about this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But then you think about, and then you think about like, okay, how do you achieve getting the items that you want?
Fight breaking out outside. Let's bring the cameras
out.
Let's,
let's watch that. But like, how do you achieve getting the items that you want? And like, you can buy houses with like no money.
Yep.
Right. So if you can buy bricks with no money, what is money?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like I think about it sometimes too, like consumerism as a whole kind of is a disease because it's not about like, it's always just about the next thing. There never is a finish line. It's like, I want to make $1 million a year. You make $1 million a year and you buy all the cars that you want.
Yeah.
You bought the house that you want. But now it's the next thing. I need the next car, the next, like it never
I have a Lambo,
ends.
but I need a Bugatti.
That's right. That's
Why?
right. Like just because consumerism, like we are from a young age, we are trained to think that happiness comes from buying shit.
Yeah, and they train us that in ways that we wouldn't even realize, like subliminal messages in marketing campaigns. Like, who was it? I forget who it was, but someone was telling me and they're an older gentleman, like 50, 55, something like that. But like back in the day, they were trying to get a job with a major commercial company, right? And then like, they were like, okay, review these ads, tell us what you see, stuff like that. And then like he had noticed that like in every single ad, there was like a little like a flash of like what was like a scary clown. And he was like, what is this about? And he questioned it. And they said, well, we tried different subliminal messages and we realized, we weren't getting the results we wanted. But then when we put a scary clown, the sales skyrocketed. I'm like, so like Pampers? like what do you do using subliminal messages in? And a lot of times they're directly targeting our children.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And it's so deep that like the rabbit hole's so deep that like it's in majority of Netflix shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It really is. And it's so easy to, just kind of be labeled as a conspiracy theorist with stuff like that too. It's like, oh man, really? Like the media and the government and everybody's brainwashing you. But when you actually understand, and that's what I love so much about sales is sales at its core is just psychology and understanding how people make decisions, how people communicate and everything. Yeah. But the more you learn about sales, like one of the first things that you learn about sales is it's largely manipulation, but people have a negative like aura around the word manipulation. Yes. Manipulation is just changing somebody's thought process and pushing them towards an action. Baby manipulates their parent when they cry and they want a fucking bottle or a boob.
Yes. Yes. I am going to manipulate you and make you want this.
Yeah, man. It's
and then I'm going to get paid for that.
Yep.
I don't personally like to go that route.
Right.
Which is why I like to almost take more of like a consulting approach with my clients or something like that.
Yep.
But like, and like if a deal's a bad deal,
right.
I'll tell my closest
there's
buyers.
So much logic involved in it anyway that
Yeah. Like I have, buyers that buy like, they'll if I get something and they're interested in it and they can't make it out there, they're like, should I buy it? Like, is it good? And I'll tell them the truth.
Yeah.
If the house is jacked up and it's about to fall down, I will tell them.
Yep. That, by the way, I've done exactly that. And I've had people be like, you're the worst sales guy. And then they ended up buying the deal anyway. Yeah. So like, Drew, you've just been telling me for the past 20 minutes what a piece of shit this is. I'm like, because it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they bought it anyway.
Yeah, and then they buy it.
Like, weird. Very weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that it works like that. But like, I've noticed that at least I've had the best results, like trying to take a friendship consulting approach with my clients.
Yep.
Because like, what use is a guy for one sale?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yep.
I want them coming back to buy diapers all the time because their kid is growing.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
So,
Last question for you. If you could go back 10 years, would you do anything differently? Would you tell yourself anything? Knowing what you know now.
Just business wise, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I could go back 10 years, I would have maybe listened a little bit more to some of my mentors when they were bouncing around to different markets and started buying in other markets and diversifying the locations of my assets.
To not just be in Philly.
Yeah.
Okay.
To not just be all eggs in one basket. And trust me, I'm not shitting on Philly. I want the best for that city.
I totally understand.
It's a beautiful city. But like when
the juice is no longer worth the squeeze.
Correct. And unless they can fix that, they're gonna have a big problem on their hands in the future.
Yeah.
I think that, so I think I would have diversified my assets, done multiple cities, maybe do like, some here, some in Cleveland, some in Cincy, some in, anywhere, Pittsburgh, or anywhere, just anywhere different.
Yep.
I think I would have done that. And I maybe would have looked into, you could be on any side of the political spectrum that you want, but like a lot of red states are very landlord friendly.
Yeah.
And if I could be a landlord in a red state where eviction takes less, like, okay, cool, maybe I'm not getting the same cap. Doesn't matter. I have no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bullshit. From a wholesale aspect, I think I should have maybe focused on systems sooner. Because I think that caused me being a little bit of a hindrance. It slowed me down.
That makes sense.
Like I could be farther ahead where I'm at if I had integrated something similar to what I have now a long time ago. Even if I had the team.
Yep.
Even if I had the team.
Yeah, because that would have amplified everything.
Yeah, it would have put it on steroids immediately. Yep. Like we would be crushing it.
Yep.
And it could be nationwide. Like
hindsight, brother.
Yeah.
Hindsight,
foresight, 2020. But do I take anything back? No.
That's good.
I love where I'm at, love my life. But yeah, we always want to be a little bit better.
Of course we do. We do. And anybody that's entrepreneurial, it's like we are driven by improvement. It's like we want to be better.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Cool. I love that. Well, awesome. I am grateful that you came on. This has been an awesome conversation for me. And I think you dropped a lot of wisdom along the way that'll be helpful to others as well. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your friendship, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And thanks for having me on. Hopefully get the families together soon.
Absolutely.
Soon enough.
We shall.
Kiara swims now.
Oh yeah?
She's like a fish.
Fantastic.
Like a fish.
To get back in the pool maybe before the end of the year.
You haven't met the littlest one yet.
I know.
Yeah, she's a little monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna be a troublemaker. She's gonna be a big troublemaker. But
that's fantastic.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the exposure.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
where can people find you? Social media, like what platforms are you on?
I am on Instagram, Facebook. I guess my handle is like at Joshua Pireda on Instagram. If you need to be added to buyer's list for buying Philly assets, I'm not stopping there anytime soon.
Love it.
As much as I'm selling off my personal assets, there's just so much distressed inventory there.
Yeah, there's a need for it.
There's a need. Yes, and I've also been doing a big push in retail right now. So yeah, if anyone needs help as far as an agent who actually knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, knows the investment side as well. Like that's a whole other value that you bring to the equation.
Yes.
So it's huge.
Yes. So yeah, if you need anything from that aspect, feel free to reach out to me. And then, dude, this was dope.
I love it, man.
This was dope.
I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah. All right. Boom.